For this lesson about bases, first thing we have to concern ourselves with is knowing some of the terminology. So let me introduce you to some of the parts of the bases that we deal with over the course of time of this particular lesson. Starting with, of course, the bases. All right, we've got a standard base here, and we have a breakaway base here. We have anchors. All right, anchors are what hold the base into position on the playing field. We have a dig-out tool to keep the anchors clean. And then finally we have base plugs. These are plugs that go into or over the top of the base anchor to keep them clean and free of soil. All right, let's take a little bit closer look here at the bases. So this is a standard base, all right? It's one piece, and we have the base cover here on the surface, and on the underside here is the stanchion, okay? A one-piece base. Here is a breakaway base. These are required in a lot of youth leagues, typically 12 and under, or sometimes in softball leagues as well. These are designed to protect youngsters from having their foot caught up underneath the base or jamming their foot into a base as they slide in. This is designed so that the cover actually separates from the bottom platform of the base that is anchored down into the ground. So when they hit it hard and slide into it, that cover jars loose, and they're protected, and their foot will just slide over the surface of this platform here, all right? So that is a breakaway base. Now, on this particular base here, on the stanchion, which is on the underside, the stanchion, of course, is what receives the anchor, all right? This is an 1.5-inch anchor, and if this was sitting down on the ground like so, this 1.5-inch anchor would receive the stanchion of the base, okay? So the stanchion would go on the inside of that anchor. If we had a 1-inch anchor, this particular stanchion, unlike all the others, this one can receive both types of anchors. In this situation, this 1-inch anchor will go up inside the stanchion. All right, slides in, sits just like this, slides back out. All right. So this is a dual anchor stanchion. Okay, it can receive either anchor. Most of them are going to be either or. They're either going to be a 1-inch stanchion, or they're going to be an 1.5-inch stanchion to receive, to go into the anchor rather. Now, when these anchors are in place, typically you're not going to see these because these are going to be buried in the soil, and they're usually buried so that the top of this anchor here is actually about 3/4 of an inch below grade. That's done so that a nail drag won't catch this anchor when you're going over the top of it. However, dirt over the course of time is going to get down inside of here, and we have to use a dig-out tool or a base scoop to get in there and clean this soil out, all right? So that's the purpose of this base scoop. Now, on a 1-inch anchor, typically that top portion is sealed, all right? But we have to clear away around the outside of the anchor so the stanchion can go over the outside of it. So again, we'll use that base scoop or dig-out tool to clear that area around the anchor. Okay, so this 1-inch anchor is down in the ground now. We don't have a base installed over it. What we want to do then is protect it with a base plug. In this situation, this base plug goes over the outside of the 1-inch anchor, and its purpose is to make sure we're aware of where that base anchor is when the drag goes over it and puts dirt over the top of it. As the dirt goes over the top here, part of this point here is going to stick out, and we're going to be able to see that amongst all the infield dirt around that position of the base. Okay? Now, there are other things we can use. We can use this particular plug, which has an indicator going over the top, and we can place that on there, and this indicator will stick up. The dirt might cover up the black portion of it, but we're still going to see that indicator. Now, on the 1.5-inch anchor, we've got the, again, this same plug will go down inside of it, and again, you've got that type of indicator, or in this situation, this foam plug has these nylon bristles that stick out really nicely and are very easy to spot. So now you know the terminology about bases, which will make it much easier for you to understand this lesson on bases, anchors, and their placement.
Proper base inspection begins with a logbook. Regular base inspections will help you track their condition and determine a schedule for routine maintenance. At a minimum, you should record the date and time of inspection, the name of the person conducting the inspection, the location of the field, the condition of the base anchor, stanchion, and base cover, and any comments by the inspector. Maintaining an inspection log will also show a consistent effort to monitor and maintain your bases, should any injury liability disputes arise. While inspecting bases, you want to look for any rips, tears, or gouging that could catch a player's cleat. You'll also want to make sure there is adequate texture on the base cover. A heavily worn base lacking texture can become slippery. If you paint your bases regularly for a brighter look, the accumulating paint can create a paint shell, which can also affect the texture and create a slippery base. Click on these images to review examples of base cover wear and tear. Does the base sit flat or curl upward? Is there enough texture for good traction? With breakaway bases, be sure to check the anchor base as well as the base cover. The stanchion is the square shaft that goes over or inside the ground anchor. Like the base covers, the stanchion should be inspected at least a couple times a week. Make sure the stanchion is firmly attached to the base. If it is welded to the base, check for excessive rust or failing welds. If it is bolted to the base, check for loose or missing bolts. The stanchion should pass a wiggle test. Grab the stanchion and wiggle it. If there is any movement, note it in your log and consider replacing the base. Checking base anchors in colder climates is more critical with the freezing and thawing that can cause anchors to shift out of position. You will only need to inspect anchors a couple of times a year. Use a small torpedo level to check alignment and record your findings in your log. If an anchor is out of plumb, you may need to pull the anchor out of the ground and reinstall it with proper alignment. Regular cleaning of your bases will maintain a nice white appearance and will help retain proper texture. First, rinse the base with water, then spray cleaning solution on the base. Scrub aggressively, including the corners and sides, then rinse, and let the base air dry. Watch the video demonstration on the next slide to see this base cleaning routine. First, thoroughly rinse the base with water. Then spray cleaning solution on the base. Remember, a little will go a long way. Then, using a scrub brush, aggressively scrub the base. Don't forget about the sides and corners when scrubbing. Rinse the base off and check for any remaining dirt. Repeat cleaning if necessary, or let the base air dry. So now you have an idea of what goes into caring for bases. But that's only part of the story when it comes to bases. The next section will show you how to maintain bases on the field, as well as proper placement of bases. But before moving on, take this pop quiz to make sure you're ready.